The shuttle lifted off from a military base in the middle of the Pacific Ocean on a gray morning. It was a small ship, built for speed and silence, and it carried only 5 people. Bay Nari sat in the front seat, her eyes fixed on the sky above. Behind her sat 2 translators, one security officer named Kwan Taesu and the pilot, a young woman named Shin Hana. Hana was only 28 years old, but she was the best pilot the military had. She had trained for years in secret, flying experimental ships that the public did not know about. Her hands were steady. Her voice was calm. She guided the shuttle up through the clouds and into the darkness of space as if she had done it 1,000 times. Nari watched the blue of the sky fade into black. She watched the curve of the earth appear below them, beautiful and fragile. She thought about her mother, who lived in a small town near Busan. She thought about how her mother had called her the night before and said, "Come home," and how Nari had said, "I will, soon." She hoped that was not a lie. The coordinates the Council had given led to a point high above the Earth, far beyond the orbit of the International Space Station. As Hana flew the shuttle closer, something appeared on the sensors. Then it appeared through the window. It was enormous. A station, floating in the emptiness of space, shaped like a ring with a bright core in the center. It was at least 10 times the size of anything humanity had ever built in orbit. Its surface was smooth and dark, like polished stone, and soft lights moved across it in slur patterns. It looked ancient and powerful. "There it is," Hana said quietly. Taesu, the security officer, tightened his jaw. That thing could hold a small city inside. She just stared at it and took a deep breath. A beam of light appeared from the station and guided the shuttle into an opening on the lower ring. The shuttle landed softly in a wide, empty room. The walls glowed with a pale blue light. The air was breathable but cold. It smelled like nothing. Completely clean. Completely empty. When the doors of the shuttle opened, 3 figures were waiting. They were tall, much taller than any human. Their skin was a pale gray-blue color, and their eyes were large and dark, with no visible whites. They wore long robes that seemed to shift color, depending on the angle. Their faces showed no expression. They stood perfectly still, like statues. One of them stepped forward and spoke. The voice was the same one from the original message, smooth, cold, and without emotion. "You are the representative of Earth." "I am," Nari said. She stepped forward, keeping her back straight and her eyes level. "My name is Bay Nari. I am here to speak on behalf of all the people of my planet." The figure tilted its head slightly. "You may call me Elder Vorin. I speak for the Galactic Council. Follow me." They were led through long hallways that seemed to stretch forever. The walls showed images, planets, star systems, species that Nari had never seen before. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. Each one was labeled with symbols she could not read. She realized that Earth was not special to these beings. It was just another dot on a very large map. They entered a wide room with a round table in the center. 5 council members sat on one side. Nari and her team sat on the other. There were no chairs for the humans, only a long bench. The council members sat on tall, curved seats that made them look even bigger. Elder Vorin began. "The terms have already been stated. Your planet's resources are needed by the Council. You will allow extraction. Your species will be moved to a smaller region. This is not a request." Nari folded her hands on the table. She had prepared for this. She had studied every negotiation technique she knew. She had practiced her words 100 times. "Elder Vorin," she said calmly, "we understand the Council's needs, but Earth is our home. Our people have lived there for thousands of years. We have built our lives, our cultures, our families on that land. We cannot simply give it away." You do not own your planet, another council member said. This one had a deeper voice and darker skin. No species owns the ground beneath it. Resources belong to whoever has the power to take them. Nari kept her voice steady. With respect, we believe differently. We believe that the people who live on a world have the right to protect it. But we are not here to argue about beliefs. We are here to find a solution that works for both sides. She paused and then continued. Earth has things the Council might value. Knowledge, culture, science. We have made great progress in many fields. We are willing to share. We are willing to trade. We can offer materials, research, and cooperation. But we will not surrender our planet. The room was quiet for a moment. The council members looked at each other. Nari could not read their faces. She did not know if they were thinking about her offer or laughing at it. Then Elder Voron spoke again. We have watched your species for 400 years. You fight among yourselves. You destroy your own environment. You cannot even agree on basic matters of governance. And now, you sit before the Galactic Council and offer us cooperation? There was something in his voice. Not anger, not amusement, something worse. Pity. You are a young species, Voron continued. You have potential, perhaps. But you are not our equals. You are not in a position to negotiate. You are in a position to accept. Nari felt heat rise in her chest. She had been insulted before. She had sat across from people who looked down on her, who thought she was too young, too female, too Korean to be taken seriously. She had proven all of them wrong. Every species was young once, she said. Every civilization started somewhere. We are asking for the chance to grow, to prove ourselves. Destroying us or taking our home would be a waste. We are not destroying you, Voron said. We are relocating you. There is a difference. Not to us, Nari said. The negotiations went on for hours. Nari presented data. She showed projections. She offered detailed trade proposals. She was brilliant. She was patient. She was everything a diplomat should be. Her team worked beside her, translating, supporting, answering questions, but with every hour that passed, Nari could feel it. The wall. She was talking, but they were not listening. Not really. They had already made their decision before she arrived. The meeting was not a negotiation. It was a courtesy, a formality. They had invited her to say yes, not to discuss. Near the end, one of the younger council members leaned forward. This one had lighter eyes and a slightly different tone. You are brave to come here alone, but bravery does not change reality. Your planet is small, your species is weak. The council has taken worlds before, larger worlds, stronger species. They all accept it eventually. Nari looked at him. She thought about Jinu's words before she left. Be respectful, but firm. We are not slaves. She stood up. Then you do not know humans, she said. We do not accept. We adapt. We fight. We survive. We have faced ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have ended us 100 times. And we are still here. She looked at every face around the table. I came here in good faith. I came here to find peace. But peace requires two sides that are willing to listen. You have not listened. Not once. She turned to her team. We are leaving. Tesu stood immediately. Hana was already moving toward the door. Elder Voron watched them go. He did not try to stop them. He simply said, You have 18 days remaining. After that, we will come. Nari stopped at the door. She turned and looked at Voron one last time. Then come, she said, and see what happens. The walk back to the shuttle was long and silent. Nari's heart was pounding, but her face showed nothing. When the shuttle doors closed and Hana began the flight back to Earth, Tesu finally spoke. That took courage. Nari shook her head. That was not courage. That was failure. I came here to make peace, I failed. You did not fail, Hana said from the pilot's seat, without turning around. They failed. They never wanted peace. Nari leaned her head against the window and watched the station grow smaller behind them. The earth grew larger ahead of them, blue and green and covered in clouds. So beautiful, so fragile. She picked up the communication device and called Jinnu. Mr. President, she said, negotiations have failed. They will not listen. They do not see us as equals. They do not see us at all. There was a long pause on the other end. Then Jinnu's voice came through, calm and steady as always. Come home, Nari. We have work to do. She closed her eyes. A tear rolled down her cheek, not because she was sad, because she knew what was coming next. She had spent her whole life trying to solve problems with words, and for the first time, her words had not been enough. The shuttle entered the atmosphere. Fire glowed outside the windows, and somewhere far above them, in the cold darkness of space, the Galactic Council began to prepare. They thought they were coming to take a planet from a weak and divided species. They had no idea what they were about to face. Nari landed back on Earth at sunset. The sky was orange and red, and the ocean below the military base reflected the light like a mirror. She stepped off the shuttle and found President Han Jinnu waiting for her on the landing pad. He was standing alone, his hands behind his back, his face unreadable. She walked up to him and bowed slightly. I am sorry, sir. I did everything I could. Jinnu shook his head. You have nothing to be sorry for. You went up there alone and faced beings that could destroy this planet. That is not failure. That is strength. Nari looked at him. What happens now? Jinnu turned and looked at the sky. The stars were beginning to appear. Somewhere among them, an alien station was floating, counting down the days until it would send ships to take everything humanity had ever built. Now, Jinnu said, we fight. Within hours, the leaders of every country on Earth gathered for an emergency meeting. It was held through a secure video system, with every president, prime minister, and head of state connected at the same time. Jinnu sat in the main room of the underground command center, with Deho on his right and Nari on his left. The screens showed faces from every corner of the world. Some looked scared, some looked angry. All of them were waiting. Jinnu spoke first. You have all received the full report from Chief Diplomat Bay Nari. The Galactic Council has refused to negotiate. They see our planet as a resource to be taken. They see our people as an obstacle to be moved. They have given us 18 days. He paused to let the words settle. I will not tell you what to decide. Each of you leads a nation with its own people, its own history, its own pride. But I will tell you what I believe. I believe that if we do nothing, we lose everything. I believe that if we surrender, we will spend the rest of our existence as servants on our own world. And I believe that humanity was not built to kneel. The room was silent. Then one by one, a leader spoke. The President of the United States said, we stand with you. The leader of China said, we are ready. India, Russia, Brazil, Germany, Japan, Nigeria, Australia, country after country, voice after voice, all saying the same thing in different words. We will fight. By the end of the meeting, every nation on Earth had agreed. For the first time in history, there was no division, no politics, no games, just one species standing together against the dark. Jinnu ended the call and turned to Deho. Admiral, it is time. Tell me about Horizon. Deho stood and walked to the largest screen in the room. He pressed a button, and images began to appear. Ships, dozens of them. Some were small and fast. Some were large and heavily armed. They were hidden in bases beneath the oceans, inside mountains, and under deserts. They had been built over the past 15 years by teams of engineers and scientists from multiple countries, all working in complete secrecy. Project Horizon was designed for exactly this moment, Deho said. We have 47 combat-ready warships, 12 support vessels, and 6 command carriers. Each ship is equipped with plasma-based weapons, electromagnetic shields, and engines that can reach speeds close to light. He zoomed in on the largest ship. It was long and powerful, shaped like a blade, with a dark hull and glowing lines running along its sides. This is the Baekdu, Deho said. Our flagship. It carries a crew of 300 and has enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Commander Kosuji has been training her crew for 2 years. Jinnu looked at the ship on the screen. Is it enough? Deho hesitated. I will not lie to you, sir. We do not know what the Council has. If they have been taking planets for centuries, they have a military far larger than ours. But our ships are fast. Our people are smart. And we have something they do not expect. The will to fight when we should not be able to. Nari spoke up. There is something else. During the negotiation, I watched them carefully. The Council members are powerful, but they are also slow. Their movements, their decisions, their thinking, everything takes time. They are used to species that surrender. They have not fought a real war in a very long time. I could see it in their eyes. Jinnu nodded slowly. Then we use that. We move fast. We hit hard. We do not give them time to adjust. The next morning, Jinnu addressed the world. Every screen on the planet carried his speech, just as the Council's message had appeared weeks before. But this time, it was a human voice speaking. He stood in front of a plain gray wall, no flags, no symbols, no decorations. Just a man in a dark suit, speaking to the entire human race. People of Earth, he began. 3 weeks ago, we received a message from the stars. It told us to surrender. It told us to give up our home. It told us that we are small and weak and that we have no choice. He paused. I am here to tell you that we do have a choice. We have always had a choice. Throughout our history, there have been moments when everything seemed lost, when the enemy was too strong, the odds too great, the future too dark, and every single time we chose to stand up. We chose to fight, not because we were sure we would win, but because giving up was never who we are. His voice grew stronger. Today I am announcing that the United Earth Council, representing every nation on this planet, has made a decision. We will not surrender. We will not relocate. We will not bow. The Galactic Council has threatened our home, our families, our children, and our future. They believe we are too primitive to resist. They believe we will break. He looked directly into the camera. They are wrong. As of this moment, Earth is at war. Not a war we wanted, not a war we started, but a war we will finish. To every man, woman, and child listening to my voice, do not be afraid. You are not alone. We are 7 billion strong, and we stand together. To the Galactic Council, you should have listened when we offered peace. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the world was completely silent. Then the noise began. In every city, in every town, in every village, people reacted. Some cried, some cheered, some prayed. But something had changed in the air. Fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else now. Something hot and bright and unstoppable. Pride. Across the world, the preparations began. Military forces were reorganized under a single command. Factories switched from making cars and electronics to making weapons and supplies. Scientists worked day and night to improve the technology from Project Horizon. Engineers strengthened the ships, upgraded the shields, and tested the weapons. Admiral Yoon Daeho oversaw everything with sharp eyes and a steady hand. He slept only 4 hours a night. He ate his meals standing up. He spoke to every commander personally, looked them in the eye, and told them the same thing. We may not be the strongest force in this galaxy, but we will be the most dangerous, because we have nothing to lose and everything to protect. Commander Kosuji was aboard the Baekdu when the declaration was made. She stood on the bridge, surrounded by her crew, and watched Jinu's speech on the main screen. When it ended, her crew looked at her. They were young. Most of them were in their 20s. They had trained in secret for years, never knowing if this day would come. Suji looked at each of them. She was 35, with short black hair and a scar on her left cheek from a training accident. She was quiet by nature, but when she spoke, people listened. "You heard the president," she said. "This is what we trained for. This is why we are here. I will not promise you safety. I will not promise you that we will all come home. But I will promise you this: when the galaxy looks at Earth, they will remember what we did. They will remember that we did not run. Now get to your stations. We have work to do." The crew moved without a word. Every station was manned. Every system was checked. The Baekdu hummed with energy, like a sleeping beast finally waking up. In his office, Jinu sat alone after the broadcast. The door was closed. The lights were dim. He took out his phone and looked at a photo of his daughter. She was smiling in the picture, holding a drawing of a rocket ship she had made at school. He pressed the phone to his chest and closed his eyes. 18 days. That was all they had. 18 days to prepare for a fight against an enemy that had conquered worlds. 18 days to turn a species that had spent most of its history fighting itself into a force that could stand against the stars. It was not enough time. He knew that. Everyone knew that. But time was all they had, and they would use every second of it. Somewhere deep in the ocean, the bay doors of a hidden base slowly opened. The water churned and glowed as the first warship rose from the depths, breaking the surface and climbing into the sky with a roar that shook the air for miles. One by one, the ships of Project Horizon emerged. From the oceans, from the mountains, from the deserts, they rose like a promise, like the fist of a planet that refused to die. The war had not started yet, but Earth was ready, and the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. 12 days after the declaration, Commander Kosuji stood on the bridge of the Baekdu and looked at the stars through the main window. The fleet was assembled in high orbit above the Earth, hidden behind the dark side of the moon. 47 warships, 12 support vessels, 6 command carriers, over 9,000 crew members. The largest military force humanity had ever put into space, and still, compared to what waited for them out there, it felt impossibly small. Suji turned to her second-in-command, Lieutenant Park Minho. He was a tall man with a gentle face that did not match his sharp mind. He had been an engineer before the military recruited him, and he understood the ships better than anyone. His job was to keep the Baekdu running no matter what happened. "Status report," Suji said. Minho checked his console. "All ships are in position. Weapons charged. Shields at full. The crew is ready, Commander." She looked at the screen, showing a map of nearby space. 3 red dots blinked on the display. Those were the targets. 3 council outposts positioned between Earth and the Council's main territory. According to the intelligence Nari had gathered during her visit to the station, these outposts were relay points. They carried communications, supplies, and sensor equipment. If the Council was going to send a fleet to Earth, it would use these outposts to coordinate the attack. Admiral Yoon Daeho's voice came through the communication system from Earth's command center. He was staying behind, managing the entire operation from the ground. His voice was calm, as always. "Commander Ko, you are clear to begin Operation Falling Star. Hit all 3 targets at the same time. Speed is everything. Get in, destroy the outposts, and get out before they can respond." Suji took a breath. "Understood, Admiral." She divided the fleet into 3 strike groups. The first group, led by Captain Yuna aboard the warship Hala, would hit the closest outpost. Yuna was fierce and fast, a pilot-turned-captain who flew her ship like it was an extension of her body. She had a reputation for taking risks that should not work, but always did. The second group was led by Captain Ryu Jisiok, aboard the Jiri. Jisiok was the opposite of Yuna, careful, methodical, and precise. He planned every move 10 steps ahead. His crew called him the Clock, because he was never late and never wrong. The third group, the largest, was led by Suji herself, aboard the Baekdu. Her target was the farthest outpost, the biggest, and the most heavily defended. "All groups," Suji said over the fleet channel. "You know the plan. We jump in, hit them hard, and leave nothing standing. No hesitation, no mercy. They gave us none, and we owe them none. For Earth." The response came back from every ship in the fleet. For Earth. The ships activated their jump drives. This was the most advanced technology Project Horizon had produced. The ability to fold space and travel faster than light for short distances. It was not perfect. The range was limited, and the drives needed time to recharge after each jump. But it was enough. Enough to do what no one in the galaxy expected a species like humanity to do. Strike fast. Strike first. The Baekdu jumped. Space folded around it like water, and in an instant, the stars changed. The moon and the Earth disappeared. In their place was a wide field of stars, and floating in the center of it all was the Council's outpost. A massive structure covered in antenna arrays and sensor dishes, surrounded by a ring of defense platforms. "We have contact," Minho said. "The outpost's shields are up. 3 defense platforms are turning toward us." Suji did not hesitate. "All ships, fire." The Baekdu's main guns lit up the darkness. Bright beams of blue-white plasma shot across space and slammed into the outpost's shields. The other ships in the group followed, pouring fire onto the target from every direction. The defense platforms returned fire, bolts of red energy that streaked past the human ships and exploded in empty space. "Their targeting is slow," Minho reported. "They are not used to ships that move this fast." Nari had been right. The Council was old. Their technology was powerful, but their tactics were ancient. They were used to fighting species that lined up and waited to be destroyed. They were not ready for ships that darted and spun and hit from angles they did not expect. Suji pushed the attack. "Focus fire on the shield generators. Bring them down." The fleet concentrated its fire on the base of the outpost where the shield generators were located. Within minutes, the shields flickered and collapsed. The outpost was exposed. "Missiles away," Suji ordered. A wave of missiles launched from the fleet, trailing white smoke as they raced toward the outpost. They hit with a chain of explosions that tore through the structure like fire through paper. Metal and debris flew in every direction. The defense platforms, cut off from their command system, went dark. "Outpost destroyed," Minho said quietly. There was no celebration in his voice, just relief. At the same moment, across light years of space, Captain Yuna was tearing through her target like a storm. Her group had jumped in even closer than planned, nearly on top of the outpost, giving the Council no time to react. Yuna flew to Hala through the defense fire with impossible grace, weaving between energy blasts, while her crew hammered the outpost with everything they had. "Come on," she whispered to herself, her hands dancing over the controls. "Come on, come on." Yuna saw the opening, and drove the Hala straight at it, firing every weapon at once. The blast tore a hole through the center of the station, and secondary explosions ripped the rest apart. Her crew cheered. Yuna leaned back in her chair and let out a breath she had been holding for what felt like hours. "Target destroyed," she reported. "All ships intact. No casualties." Captain Ryu Jisiok's attack was different. His approach was surgical. He positioned his ships in a precise formation around the outpost, calculated the exact weak points in the structure, and fired coordinated volleys that peeled the station apart layer by layer. It took longer than the other two attacks, but when it was done, there was nothing left, not a single piece of debris large enough to send a signal. Target eliminated, GCOC reported, clean and complete. Back on Earth, Admiral Deho stood in the command center and watched the reports come in on the main screen. 3 outposts, 3 targets, 3 victories, all within 2 hours. He allowed himself a small, rare smile. He turned to President Jinnu, who was standing behind him. "It is done, sir. All 3 outposts destroyed. No ships lost. Minimal damage." Jinnu closed his eyes for a moment. "Casualties?" 12 wounded across the fleet. None critical. No deaths. Jinnu nodded slowly. "Good. Bring them home." But they both knew this was just the beginning. Destroying the outposts would blind the Council temporarily. It would disrupt their communications and slow their response. But it would also make them angry. And an angry enemy with superior numbers was a dangerous thing. The news spread across Earth within the hour. People gathered in front of screens and watched the footage that the fleet had recorded. They saw the Council's stations explode. They saw human ships flying through alien fire and coming out the other side. They saw what their species could do when pushed to the edge. The reaction was enormous. In cities around the world, people poured into the streets. Not in panic this time. In celebration, in pride, in the fierce, burning joy of knowing that they were not helpless, that they could fight back, that the galaxy had underestimated them. But among the military leaders, the mood was more careful. Deho gathered his commanders for a meeting the next day. "We won the first battle," he said, "but do not mistake this for winning the war. We surprised them. We hit targets they thought were safe. That advantage is gone now. They know what we can do. They will adapt. They will come with more ships, bigger weapons, and a plan." Commander Suji spoke up. "Then we adapt faster. That is what humans do. We learn, we change, we survive." Deho looked at her, but there was fire in her eyes that no amount of exhaustion could put out. "The Council will send their fleet within days," Deho said. "Our scouts estimate a force of over 200 warships, plus support vessels. They outnumber us 4-1. The room was quiet. Nari, who had been invited to the meeting, raised her hand. During the negotiation, the young council member mentioned something. He said the council had taken worlds before. Larger worlds, stronger species. He said they all accepted eventually. She paused. But he also said something else that I did not think was important at the time. He said the council's military had not been fully mobilized in over 3 centuries. Their standing fleet is large, but it is built for intimidation, not for real war. Deho leaned forward. "You are saying their fleet might look powerful, but may not fight well?" "I am saying they have not had to fight well in a very long time," Nari said. "They are like a sword that has been hanging on a wall for 300 years. It still looks sharp, but it has never been tested." Suji smiled, not a happy smile, a dangerous one. "Then let us test it." The planning continued through the night. Every scenario was discussed. Every strategy was examined. They knew they could not win a straight fight against a force 4 times their size. They would have to be smarter, faster, more creative. They would have to use every trick, every advantage, every ounce of human cleverness to survive. In the quiet hours before dawn, Suji walked through the corridors of the Baekdu alone. The ship was docked at the orbital staging area above Earth. Through the windows, she could see the planet below, lights glowing on the night side, millions of people living their lives, trusting that someone up here was going to protect them. She stopped at a window and placed her hand on the glass. The stars were endless. "We are coming for you," she whispered to the darkness, "and you are not ready for us." 6 days remained. 6 days until the Council's fleet arrived. 6 days for humanity to prepare for the battle that would decide the fate of their world. It was not enough time. It was never enough time. But humanity had always done impossible things in impossible time. And this time would be no different. The Council's fleet arrived on the 29th day, one day before the deadline. They came out of folded space like a dark cloud, filling the sensors with red dots. 216 warships, 60 support vessels, and one command ship at the center that was larger than anything humanity had ever seen. It was shaped like a crescent moon, black and smooth, and it moved through space with a silence that made it even more terrifying. Admiral Yoon Daeho stood in the command center on Earth and watched the dots appear on the screen, one by one. His face did not change. His hands stayed behind his back. He had been expecting this. He had planned for this. But seeing it, the sheer size of what was coming, made even him pause for a moment. He opened the fleet channel. All ships. This is Admiral Yoon. The Council fleet has arrived. Execute Plan Gumgong. Repeat. Execute Plan Gumgong. Plan Gumgong was not a plan to win by force. The Council had 4 times the ships and far more firepower. Instead, it was a plan built on speed, confusion, and something the Council did not understand: the human ability to think in the middle of chaos. The plan was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. The human fleet would split into dozens of small groups, each one acting independently. They would attack from every direction at the same time, targeting weak points, supply lines, and communication relays. They would never stay in one place long enough to be caught. They would hit, run, regroup, and hit again. It was the way humans had always fought when they were outnumbered. It was the way small forces had defeated empires throughout history. It was not elegant. It was not clean. But it worked. Commander Ko Suji was the tip of the spear. The Baekdu led the first wave, jumping straight into the heart of the Council formation. The moment they arrived, every gun on the ship fired. Plasma bolts tore into the nearest Council warship, cracking its shields and sending it spinning. Break and scatter, Suji ordered. The fleet spread out like a swarm, small groups diving between the massive Council ships, firing and moving, never stopping. The Council fleet responded with heavy weapons fire, but their shots were designed for large, slow targets. The human ships were neither. They were small and fast, darting between the enemy vessels like insects around a giant. Captain Oh Yuna led her group on a direct run at the Council supply line. She targeted the fuel carriers and the ammunition transports, hitting them one by one in quick, devastating passes. Each explosion sent shockwaves through the Council formation, forcing their warships to spread out to avoid the debris. "Keep hitting them where it hurts," Yuna shouted over the communication channel. Her ship shook as an energy bolt grazed the hull, but she held the course. "They cannot protect everything at once." Captain Ryu Jiseok took a different approach. His group positioned themselves at the edge of the battle and began jamming the Council's communication signals. Without clear communications, the Council's coordination fell apart. Ships that should have been moving together began acting alone. Formations broke. Orders were lost. The massive fleet, so terrifying to look at, began to stumble. On the command ship at the center of the Council fleet, Elder Vorun watched the battle unfold on a wide holographic display. His large dark eyes moved from one point to another, tracking the chaos. This was not what he had expected. He had expected the humans to line up their small fleet and attempt a direct fight, which would have ended quickly. Instead, they were everywhere. They were inside his formation, outside his formation, hitting targets he had not thought to protect. "Send the reserve fleet to close the gaps," he ordered. "We cannot reach them, Elder," his tactical officer said. "Their ships are too fast. Every time we redirect, they change position." Vorun's jaw tightened. "Then concentrate all fire on their largest ship. destroy their commander. The Council fleet turned its attention to the Baekdu. Dozens of warships redirected their fire, sending a wall of energy toward Suji's position. The space around the Baekdu lit up like a storm. Shields flared. The ship shook. "Shields at 40%, Minho shouted. Suji gripped her command chair. "Evasive maneuvers. All power to engines. Get us behind their command ship." Hana was not on the Baekdu. She was piloting a fast attack ship nearby. But Suji's pilot was almost as good. The Baekdu rolled and dived, slipping between Council ships, using their own fleet as cover. The Council vessels, trying to fire at the Baekdu, hit each other instead. Two of their own ships collided in the confusion. The battle raged for 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and explosions, of split-second decisions and impossible maneuvers, of human crews pushed beyond their limits, fighting with everything they had. Ships were damaged, crews were wounded. 3 human vessels were destroyed, their escape pods launched into the void. But, for every human ship lost, the Council lost 5. By the 4th hour, the Council's formation was broken. By the 5th hour, their supply line was gone. By the 6th hour, Elder Voron looked at his display and saw something he had not seen in 300 years of Council military history. They were losing. Not destroyed, not defeated entirely, but losing. The humans had crippled their communications, destroyed their supply ships, damaged a third of their warships, and shown no sign of stopping. The Council fleet was larger, but it was bleeding. Slowly, steadily, and without mercy. Voron sat in silence for a long time. He thought about the hundreds of worlds the Council had taken, the dozens of species they had relocated. None of them had fought like this. None of them had been willing to throw themselves into fire just to land a single blow. None of them had looked at a force 4 times their size and said, "Let us test it." He pressed the communication button. "All ships, cease fire. Open a channel to the human fleet." The battlefield went quiet. Ships on both sides stopped firing. The silence was sudden and strange after hours of constant noise. Suji saw the ceasefire order on her screen. She did not trust it. "Keep shields up. Weapons ready. If they move, we fire." Instead, Voron's voice came through on an open channel. "Humans, this is Elder Voron of the Galactic Council. I am requesting a ceasefire and immediate negotiations." On Earth, Daeho heard the message and looked at Jinnu. The president's face was tired, but steady. He had been standing in the command center for 9 hours straight, watching every moment of the battle. "Accept the ceasefire," Jinnu said, "but on our terms. The negotiations will happen on our station, not theirs, and this time we choose the table." Nari was already moving. She had been waiting, watching, hoping that this moment would come. She contacted Voron directly. "Elder Voron, the ceasefire is accepted. You will send your delegation to our staging area in orbit above Earth. You will come unarmed. You will come ready to listen this time." There was a long pause. Then Voron replied, "Agreed." 2 days later, the negotiation took place. Not in their tall chairs looking down at humans on a bench. This time, it happened on a human platform, a converted section of the orbital staging area, with a simple round table and chairs of equal height. Nari sat on one side with Jinnu. Voron sat on the other, with 2 council advisors. The mood was different now. Voron did not look at Nari with pity anymore. He looked at her with something closer to respect, perhaps even caution. Nari spoke first. "We did not want this war. We came to you in peace, and you turned us away. We fought because you left us no choice. But we are not here for revenge. We are here to build something better." She placed a document on the table. It outlined a proposal, not for surrender, not for domination, but for partnership. Earth would join the Galactic Council as an equal member. Humans would share their adaptability, their creativity, and their willingness to fight for what was right. In exchange, the Council would respect Earth's sovereignty and provide access to galactic technology and trade. Vorun read the documents slowly. His dark eyes moved over every word. When he finished, he looked up. "Your species is young," he said, "but you have shown something today that I have not seen in a very long time. Courage. Real courage. Not the kind that comes from having power, but the kind that comes from having none and fighting anyway." He placed his hand flat on the table. In Council tradition, it was a sign of agreement. Earth will have its seat on the Council, not because we are granting it as a gift, but because you have earned it. Nari felt her eyes burn. She did not cry. She simply nodded. On Earth, the news was broadcast to every screen. People watched as the agreement was signed. They watched as humanity's flag, a simple blue circle on a white background, chosen to represent the planet, was raised alongside the banners of 100 other worlds in the Council chamber. Admiral Deho watched from the command center. His face was still hard, still serious, but his eyes were soft. He thought about the crews that had fought, the 3 ships that were lost, the people who would not come home. He would remember their names, every single one. Commander Suji stood on the bridge of the Baekdu, looking out at the stars. The ship was battered. Scorch marks covered the hull. One of the engines was barely working, but it was still flying, still standing. Minho walked up beside her. "We did it." Suji shook her head. "They did it. All of them. Every person on every ship, every engineer, every pilot, every soldier who was scared but fought anyway. That is what makes us human." Captain Yuna celebrated with her crew, loudly, with laughter and tears and stories that would be told for generations. Captain Jisak sat alone in his quarters and wrote a letter to his mother. He told her he was safe. He told her the war was over. He told her he loved her. Then he folded the letter and placed it in his pocket, because some things were too important to send through a screen. President Han Jinu went home that night for the first time in weeks. His daughter was waiting by the door. She ran to him and wrapped her arms around his legs. He picked her up and held her close. "Did you save the world?" she asked. Jinu smiled. "No," he said. "We all did." Above them, the stars shone. And among those stars, for the first time, humanity had a place. Not given, not borrowed, not stolen. The message came on a Tuesday morning. It arrived not through email, not through radio, and not through any system that humans had ever built. It came as a beam of light that hit every screen on the planet at the same time. Every phone, every television, every computer, every digital board in every city on Earth displayed the same thing. A symbol, a circle with 3 lines cutting through it, and beneath it, a single sentence translated into every human language. "The Galactic Council demands your answer." In Seoul, inside the Blue House, President Han Ji-nu was sitting at his desk when the message appeared on his monitor. He stared at it for a long time. His coffee grew cold. His hands stayed still. He had been president for only 2 years, and in those 2 years, he had dealt with economic trouble, border tensions, and climate disasters. But nothing like this, nothing even close to this. His chief secretary rushed in. "Sir, it is everywhere. Every country is reporting the same thing." Jinu did not look up right away. He read the message again. Then he said, "Get me Admiral Yoon, and get me Bainari, now." Within the hour, the 3 of them sat together in the underground command room beneath the presidential residence. The room was cold and gray. Screens covered every wall, showing news from every country. The world was in panic. People were running through the streets. Governments were holding emergency meetings. Some religious leaders were calling it the end of the world. Others were calling it the beginning of something new. Admiral Yoon Dae-ho was a tall man with a hard face and short gray hair. He had served in the military for over 30 years. He had fought in conflicts that most people had already forgotten. He did not look scared. He looked ready. Bae Nari was different. She was younger, in her early 40s, with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She had negotiated peace deals, trade agreements, and border disputes. She believed in words. She believed that any problem could be solved if two sides were willing to sit down and talk. "We received more than just the symbol," Nari said. She placed a tablet on the table and pressed play. A voice filled the room. It was smooth and clear, but it did not sound human. It had no warmth. It had no emotion. It sounded like a machine pretending to be alive. "People of Earth, you exist within the territory of the Galactic Council. Your star system was marked for observation 400 of your years ago. That observation period has now ended. You have been judged. Your planet holds resources that are of value to the Council. You will surrender control of your world. You will allow extraction teams to begin work. You will not resist. If you agree, your species will be allowed to continue living in a reduced territory on your planet. If you do not agree, the Council will take what it needs by force. You have 30 of your days to respond." The room was silent. Jinnu leaned back in his chair. He looked at the ceiling for a moment, then he looked at Dae-ho. "What do we know about them?" Dae-ho shook his head slowly. "Almost nothing, sir. Our deep space monitoring picked up signals years ago, but we could never confirm what they were. Now we know. They are real. They are out there, and they are watching us." "How strong are they?" Jinnu asked. "We do not know that either. But if they can send a message to every screen on this planet at the same time, they are far ahead of us in technology." Nari spoke next. "We cannot fight something we do not understand. We need to talk to them. We need to understand what they want and why." Dae-ho looked at her. "They already told us what they want. They want our planet." "They want resources," Nari corrected. "That is different. If they only want resources, maybe we can offer something else. Maybe we can trade. Maybe there is a deal to be made." Jinnu listened to both of them. He trusted both of them. Dae-ho was a soldier. His mind worked in terms of threat and defense. Nari was a diplomat. Her mind worked in terms of words and agreements. Both of them were right in their own way, and both of them were needed. "We will do both," Jinnu said. "Nari, I want you to prepare for negotiations. Find a way to contact them. Ask for a meeting. Be respectful, but firm. We are not slaves, and we will not act like slaves." He turned to Dae-ho. "Admiral, I want you to prepare for the worst. Quietly. No announcements, no panic. Begin activating our defense systems. And I want a full report on Project Horizon within 24 hours. Dae-ho's eyes changed when he heard those words. Project Horizon was something very few people on Earth knew about. It had started 15 years ago, when the first strange signals were picked up from deep space. A small group of scientists and military leaders had come together in secret. They had asked a simple question. What if we are not alone? And what if whoever is out there is not friendly? Project Horizon was the answer. Hidden beneath the ocean floors, in deep underground bases, and inside hollowed-out mountains, humanity had been building. Ships, weapons, shields, technology that was beyond anything the public had ever seen. It was not enough to match an advanced alien race, but it was a start. It was proof that humanity had been thinking ahead. "Yes, sir," Dae-ho said. He stood and left the room without another word. Nari stayed. She looked at Jinnu with careful eyes. "Do you really think it could come to war?" Jinnu did not answer right away. He thought about his daughter. She liked drawing pictures of animals and reading stories about space. He thought about all the children on Earth who were probably scared right now. He thought about the billions of people who were looking up at the sky and wondering what was coming. "I hope not," he said. "But hope is not a plan. We will try to talk first. That is your job. But if talking fails, we need to be ready." Nari nodded. She understood. She did not like it, but she understood. Over the next few days, the world changed. The United Nations held an emergency session. Every country agreed to work together. Old enemies shook hands. Old arguments were put aside. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth stood united under one cause: survival. Jinnu was chosen to lead the global response, not because Korea was the strongest country, but because the message had been received on his watch, and because he had already begun to act while others were still in shock. The other leaders respected him. He was calm. He was clear. He did not waste time with big speeches or empty promises. He simply said what needed to be done, and then did it. Nari worked around the clock. She and her team figured out how to send a reply using the same frequency the council had used. The message was short and simple. "We are willing to talk. Name the time and place." The reply came within hours. "You will send one representative to the following coordinates in orbit above your planet. You have 5 days. Nari read the message and smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been given a very hard job and had decided to do it anyway. She went to Jinnu. They agreed to meet. "I will go." Jinnu looked at her. "You know this could be a trap." "Yes," she said. "But if I do not go, we lose our best chance at peace." He studied her face for a long moment. Then he said, "Go. But come back." Nari left the room and began to prepare. She packed nothing. She brought no weapons. She carried only her mind, her words, and the weight of every human life on her shoulders. In 5 days, she would stand before beings from another world and try to save her planet with nothing but her voice. And somewhere beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a base that did not officially exist, Admiral Yoon Dae-ho walked through rows and rows of warships that had never seen the light of day. He ran his hand along the cold metal hull of the largest one and whispered, "Let us hope we never need you." But deep inside, he already knew they would.